Hi there everybody, my name is Jeremy Krug and I'd like to welcome you back to another chemistry video. In this video we're going to be looking at electron configurations and how we can see patterns with electron configurations on the periodic table. If you're new here, take a look around. I think you'll like what you see. This is the place for first year honors chemistry and for AP chemistry. If you like what you see, please slam that thumbs up button and consider subscribing so that you won't miss a thing here on chemistry. Well, let's take a look at these first 23 electron configurations that we wrote in the last video. You might notice that we have a pattern here of progression. We started with hydrogen, which had the electron configuration 1s1, and we went all the way up to vanadium, which ends with 4s2 3d3. Now, if you look at these electron configurations and you don't understand where these came from, then I would strongly recommend that you go back and watch the last video where we found out how to write these electron configurations. In this video, we're focusing on the patterns. I'd like for you to look at some of the patterns. The first pattern I'd like for us to look at has to do with some of these in the first column or the first group of the periodic table. For example, hydrogen right here has an electron configuration of 1s1. So that's the first one we have. Now look at the element right underneath it, which is lithium. So lithium is right here on the periodic table. Its electron configuration ends with 2s1. Now, look at the element right underneath lithium on the periodic table. That would be sodium. And take a look at what sodium's electron configuration ends with. It ends with 3s1. Do you see a pattern starting to emerge here? We had on the periodic table 1s1, 2s1, and then 3s1. Now, if the pattern holds, we would expect that the element right underneath it, potassium, to be 4s1. And if you look at the electron configuration for that, you'll find that that is indeed the case. Potassium ends with 4s1. So there's a pattern there, isn't there? Now, if you had to guess, what do you think this next element underneath that rubidium might end with? Well, if you said 5s1, you'd be correct. And then cesium would end with 6s1, wouldn't it? So we can see a pattern in that group of the periodic table. Now, let's go over to the group just next to it, its neighbors there, the alkaline earth metals. And let's see if there's a similar pattern for those elements. Now, we see that beryllium, which is right here, ends with 2s2, and then magnesium, which is right underneath that, ends with 3s2. And then right underneath magnesium, we have calcium, and that ends with 4s2. So we kind of have the same pattern, don't we? We had 2s2, 3s2, 4s2, and if you had to guess, then what do you think strontium would end with? Well, if you said 5s2, you'd be correct. You see, the pattern is the coefficient out in front is just the period number, and then we have an S, and if it's in the first group, it's going to be S1, and the second group is S2. Now let's see if we can find any other patterns on the periodic table. You might notice that if we take a look at boron, over here, kind of toward the right side of the periodic table in group 13, take a look at what boron's electron configuration ends with. It ends with 2p1. Now, look right underneath boron. We have aluminum. And aluminum's configuration ends with 3p1. Do you see kind of the same pattern or the same type of pattern emerging here? We have 2p1 and then 3p1. And if you had to guess, what do you think gallium's configuration would end with? Well, it would be 4p1, wouldn't it? And we could say the same thing, that indium underneath it would be 5p1, and it would keep on going down the table. So we can see that these here in the 13th group are going to end with whatever the period number is, will be its coefficient, and then p1. Now, we noticed another pattern as we wrote these electron configurations in the previous video. You might remember that we said that boron, just as an example, ended with 2p1, and then the element right next to it, carbon, was 2p2, and then nitrogen next to it was 2p3, and then oxygen is 2p4, and fluorine is 2p5, and neon is 2p6. And so there's a progression there as well, isn't there? We're just counting the boxes. Now, we said that gallium is going to end with 4p1. So if that's the case, what do you think selenium right over here would end with? Well, we can count the boxes, can't we? If gallium is 4p1, selenium would have to be 4p1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's going to end with 4p4. So do you see the progression that we have here? Now, we had a similar progression with the elements that were in that D section, those transition metals. We started with scandium, right here was scandium's configuration. It ended with 3d1. You see, its coefficient is actually 1 less than the period number, 3d1. And then titanium was 3d2. And vanadium was 3d3. So if you had to guess, what do you think manganese would end with? Well, we can count the boxes, can't we? 3d1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 3d5. And what do you think zinc would end with right here on the table? Well, we can count the boxes again. 3d1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it ends with 3d10. So there is a progression. There are patterns that we can see on the periodic table with these electron configurations. Now, we sometimes actually give some names to these sections of the periodic table. You'll find that in these first two columns, these first two groups of the periodic table, those elements are going to have electron configurations that end with S. And so we often call those the S block of elements. And that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So those first two columns, along with helium, because that kind of ends with S as well, it's a 1s2, that would be the S block. And then if we look at groups 13 through 18, that would be essentially boron through neon, and all the elements underneath those on the periodic table, those are going to have electron configurations that end with P, aren't they? So we sometimes call that the P block. And then the transition metals, these are the ones that end with D. And so that's sometimes called the D block of elements. That's just another name for the transition metals for all practical purposes. Now, the part that we didn't really talk about was down here at the bottom of the table. These are elements that we don't work with all the time in first year chemistry, but those are going to have electron configurations that end with F. And so we call those the F block of elements. Now, what I'd like to share with you here is a graphic. This is a graphic that helps us to organize where these elements are on the periodic table and how we can work with these electron configurations. Now, what I recommend is if you're asked to write an electron configuration, like for phosphorus in this case here, what I would recommend is always start at the beginning of the periodic table with the 1s section right here. Now, remember, this is kind of like how a bus driver does the bus route every morning. He or she is going to drive along the bus route the same way every morning and go along every street and pick up all the kids that are on that bus route. And so let's go ahead and try the electron configuration for phosphorus. Now, first of all, we have to realize that phosphorus is located right here on the table in this spot. It is in the 3p section. So we're trying to go through every street until we get to that destination on our bus route here. So we're going to start with phosphorus, and we always start with 1s, and there are two boxes there, so it's 1s2. And then after 1s, we have 2s, and there are two boxes there, so it's 2s2. And after 2s, we have 2p. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes in that section, so it's 2p6. Now we start the next street over here, 3s, and there are two boxes there, so it's 3s2. And then phosphorus is in the 3p section, so we don't want to pass that up, do we? It's 3p and 1, 2, 3, so it's 3p3 is how that electron configuration is going to end. So this is just another way to write electron configurations for these elements. Let's try another one. Let's try iron. So we're going to use this same graphic here, and we start with 1s. And we're in the 1s section, so 1s2. And then after that, we start the second street here. 2s has 2 boxes, so it's 2s2. And then 2p has 6 boxes, so it's 2p6. We start the next street. 3s has 2 boxes, so it's 3s2. And then we have 3p, and there are 6 boxes there, so it's 3p6. And then we start the next street. The 4s section has 2 boxes, so it's 4s2. Now, we don't want to pass our destination. Iron is in the 3d section, and it's right here. If you look at it on your periodic table, you'll see that's the box that it corresponds to. So iron is in the 3d section, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes into that section. So it's 3d6. And that's how you'd write the electron configuration for iron. Let's try another one. Let's try bromine this time. Now, once again, we always start at the beginning of the bus route, and we go all the way through these streets here until we get to our destination. Bromine is right here. We can make a little note of that on your graphic or on your periodic table. And we start with 1s, and the 2 boxes, it's 1s2. And then we have 2s2 for the 2 boxes there. 2p has 6 boxes, 2p6. 3s2. 3p has 6. And then 4s has 2. 3d, you count that up, it has 10 boxes in it. So it's 3d10. That gets us up through zinc. And now 4p, that's our destination. So we don't want to pass that. It's 4p, and it's the 5th box into that section. So it ends with 4p5. So that's how you can write the electron configuration for bromine. Let's try another one. Let's try antimony. SB is the symbol for that. And antimony, if you look on your periodic table, is in the 5p section, and it's right here. And so once again, if you're using your periodic table or a hard copy of this graphic, you might want to make a little note of that so that you don't pass this up. So we always start at the beginning. 1s2, 2s2, 2p, 6 for the 6 boxes there. And then the next street, 3s2, and then 3p6. Back around to the next street here, 4s2, and then 3d has 10, so 3d10. 4p has 6. Back around to the next street, 5s has 2, so it's 5s2. 4d has 10 boxes, so it's 4d10. And now we're getting close, so we don't want to pass this up. It's in the 5p section, and if SB is right here, it's 1, 2, 3 boxes into that section, so it's 5p3. And that's how you write the electron configuration for antimony. So once again, you can see that these electron configurations are progressively getting longer and longer, aren't they? And that's because these are essentially road maps or maps for where the electrons are located in the energy levels of an atom. Let's try one more here. We'll try a longer one. We'll try mercury here. So mercury, if you're looking at your periodic table, is way down here. It's in the 5d section, and it's the last, which would be the 10th box in that section. So we're going to start at the very beginning, just like we always do. Start at the beginning of that bus route. 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, back around to 4s, 4s2, 3d10, 4p6, back around to the next street here, 5s2, 4d10, 5p6, 6. We're into uncharted territories here. Next we have 6s, and there are 2 boxes there, so it's 6s2. Now there's something that happens after 6s2. If you look at your periodic table, you'll notice that after cesium and barium, we have these lanthanides down here toward the bottom of the table. And we have to incorporate those into our electron configuration. So after 6s, we have 4f. Now, 4f, how many boxes are in the 4f section? Well, you can count it up, and you'll find that there are 14 boxes down here. So that's 4f14. Now, that gets us back up to this section here, back to 5d. And so this is our destination. Mercury is the 10th box in the 5d section, so it's 5d10. And so that is a very long electron configuration, but that's the electron configuration for the mercury atom. Now, one thing you'll notice, if you take all these superscripts, 2 plus 2 plus 6 plus 2 plus 6, and so forth, and add them all together, you're going to get the number 80. And that is the atomic number of mercury on the periodic table, which, as we have already learned in this course, happens to be the number of electrons in a stable mercury atom that is neutral. So is that a coincidence? Well, not really, because we know that mercury has 80 electrons, and this electron configuration is mapping out where those electrons are. Hey, I hope you learned something from this video. Thanks for watching, and once again, if you found this video useful, please share it with other people in your classroom, other teachers in your building or in your area. I really appreciate the word of mouth, and I also appreciate you watching. And every subscriber, every view counts. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video where we can learn some more chemistry together.